Hello, Stephen.
Oh, hello, Jennifer. Why are we being so formal?
Oh my gosh, here I am trying to be a little bit more organized with our podcast episodes and type out a little outline for us. And Steve just cannot handle it.
I was reading from a script. It was perfect.
Oh my gosh, you're such a robot. Okay, well, I had a really great intro for you guys, and Steve ruined it. So I guess we'll just forge ahead. He was going to ask...
This, I'm reading it right now. It's not. We're done.
Oh my gosh, it's good if we do it well. Okay. Well, anyway, we're excited about this episode today.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be super excited. That's what it says.
Oh my gosh. It does not say that.
No, it doesn't say that exactly, but she told me that I was supposed to be super excited about this.
Well, what I'm supposed to say is... Why are we being so formal? Because, we use the full names at the beginning. And I say, because we're talking about something that oozes with formality, drips with diamonds and hair extensions, and shops only at Bergdorf Goodman. We're talking about money.
Wow. That was actually worse than I imagined it when I read it. I'm sorry.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's, anyway. Okay, well, we are Red Weather Christians.
I'm Jen.
I'm Steve.
We're here uncovering doubts, wading through disillusionment, and teasing through our own faith, one episode at a time.
Were we supposed to read that together?
Oh my gosh, you are ruining everything. Okay, I'm just going to keep going here, you jerk. We hope that as you join us, you'll feel empowered to voice doubts, ask questions, and keep the conversation going, even when it's awkward, as we are often.
So, this is what you've been waiting for. It's the money episode.
Woo woo!
Part 1.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about on this one.
And we realize that there's a great schism, or basically a turning point, that we'll get to later.
Yes. The main purpose of this episode, though, is just the fact that money seems to be such a taboo topic in the church. That is frustrating to us. And, let me rewind. It's a taboo topic in some ways. In some ways, like when you hear messages about tithing, yeah, that's not taboo. They talk about that all the time. But the things that we're going to be talking about today, just kind of some of our financial struggles and things like that. You don't hear a lot of advice from the church or really much information from the church about how to lead a healthy financial life in a way to glorify God.
Right. But there are, in part 2 of this idea, some solutions. So even though we'll have some questions that lead up to it, there are some things that have been done and are being done differently in the church. And we're really excited about that too.
Excitement abounds.
So, Jen, you mentioned the idea of the tithe.
Yes, I did, Stephen.
Oh, right. Formal
Yes.
Today. Yes, this is something we've heard a lot. We've probably heard the verse Malachi 3:10 touted about this. It refers to the tithe and do not withhold it or you'll be robbing God. But more specifically, it says, "Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it." Yeah, about that.
Oh, gosh.
So you're supposed to test the Lord with the tithe, as in give the 10% and see just how abundantly your life will be blessed. My main problem with this is now I wonder our motives for tithing. Not should I tithe or not tithe, but the verse states that because we tithe and we tested the Lord in this, that we'll have blessings abundant. You won't even have room for it. Is that why we tithe?
Yeah, that seems like a selfish motive to tithe because we think we're going to be getting something back more than we put in, right? Because I bet you, for some people who tithe, they tithe and they're faithful in that. And they're not seeing blessings, really, in their life.
And lots of times we have heard pastors denounce the health and wealth gospel that basically lives off of these principles.
Prosperity gospel, it's also called.
Name it and claim it. Anyway, my other problem with the tithe being preached about in sermons, especially from this verse, Malachi 3:10, is some maybe competing verses or contradictory verses elsewhere, like Deuteronomy 6:16, where it says, "Do not test the Lord your God."
Yeah, that's a question that we've had for a while now, years, I would say. And I've never really heard a good answer to that, like why those seem to be so contradictory.
Right. And we will remind everyone, we are not biblical scholars. We are maybe like you. We're reading this in an NIV translation, English translation of the Bible, and we just see these two verses side by side. Test the Lord in this, but do not test the Lord your God. Huh?
Yeah, we're not going to be hoity-toity about our biblical knowledge here. We just have questions, and we want to talk about them, and we want to talk about them with you. And just on that note, real quick, please feel free to, write a comment to us, leave a voice message, or even send an email. I'm going to try to remember to write our email address in the show description for this episode.
Cool. So we also have received some feedback, which is great. We love hearing from you. But, pros and cons to that as well.
Yeah, some feedback that we've gotten so far is that at times we come across as being too judgmental, that we are taking sacred topics and we are speaking too glibly about them. And the purpose of this show, to open the doors of conversation, have questions, have doubts. Now, we can definitely work on our tone of voice.
I'm not.
Oh my gosh, I will. And not coming across as maybe so abrasive about certain things. But we will say a frustrating thing to us is that we do have strong opinions about these topics.
Right. So what we're saying is not all churches, but our church experience has been that when these topics that we're fairly opinionated about come up, they either ignore them completely or have some dogmatic approach to it. I mean, if I were just to mention the topic of homosexuality, that ruffles feathers immediately, and people don't want to talk about it, because once they talk about it, then they have to alienate maybe some friends or family members who are homosexual.
Right. So just that in and of itself is frustrating to us when we feel like we're not allowed to talk about things. And I don't think this person was telling me, Jen, you just shouldn't talk about these things at all. I do think that they were saying it's the way that you talk about them that is maybe disrespectful. So that's something that we can certainly work on, but we are going to continue to have strong opinions.
And perhaps talk glibly.
And have questions and have doubts. And, don't worry, this person is not going to even listen to this episode because they were very clear to me that they have stopped listening. So, but we are still, even though this person has stopped listening, we are going to try to make some changes moving forward just to be better humans and above reproach.
Right.
Moving along from that, thanks for hearing us out on that. Today, we are talking about money. And this is a topic that a lot of people don't like talking about because sometimes people have things that they hide about how they spend their money, how much debt they're in, or just things that they're kind of embarrassed about, maybe like how much they spend at Starbucks in a week or something like that. But what ends up happening is we just close off the conversation, even non-Christians, Christians alike, but it's just not healthy. Steve and I want to be able to talk to you guys about your finances and our finances. So today we're talking about money. We think this is a really important topic to talk about because if we can be open about our finances, I think it's only going to be strength building in the Christian community and in the secular community.
Yep. So how we were raised as kids and what we heard growing up may be different from what you experienced, but obviously that shapes who we are at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And what we know going forward. And we would want that conversation to happen with our kids sooner and maybe your kids sooner if you have them, just because it helps.
Definitely. I guess I'll start. So I was raised by a mother and a father. A mother who was very good with finances and smart, and a father who kind of took the philosophy of like, oh, it'll all work out, put it on the credit card. And so my dad would kind of rack up debt, and then my mom would be working and working and working to try to get it paid off. So I saw that kind of conflict between my parents growing up. And what I took away from all of that is credit cards are evil and from the devil, because I really respected my mom, and she was trying really hard to get our finances in order when she was married to a guy who's like, it'll be fine, just don't worry about it. Put it on the credit card. So yeah, that was me. But also me was I got an allowance, and my mom made me budget my allowance, which was super annoying to me because I didn't get very much allowance. And then I had to divvy it up in these paper envelopes. And so I never had enough money for clothes, which was the most important thing to me growing up. So, yep, that was me.
Yeah, and I would have loved to have an allowance. Or some of my friends would get paid for their grades. I would have loved that too.
Aw, pobrecito.
Right. No, but the thing is, growing up, I never really needed anything. I always had everything provided for me. So I grew up with privilege in that way. But I didn't necessarily have spending money of my own. So I got gifts at the holidays and birthdays and things like that. But if I wanted to make money, to spend money, well, that was usually for video games. But I would have to do, mowing lawns or other things on my own. And I otherwise didn't have spending money.
Yeah. And from the church, all I remember hearing from the church growing up was just about tithes occasionally.
Well, we'd also hear about giving in other ways, more of rather than the tithe, the obligatory giving, but the voluntary, the giving during the holiday seasons and things like that. We'd hear about that.
Yeah, which is good.
I also grew up not personally being very frugal, but having some of those frugal mindsets of don't waste anything.
Aw. Yep, you've held on to that.
Mainly with food, but yes.
Oh my gosh.
So when I met Jen and we started going on dates and things, obviously money was involved sometimes.
Not always.
Hey, lots of things, the best things in life are free.
Hey, I have a date night, Jen. We're going to take this football and go to the park and throw it.
Sounds great. Is that happening like here now?
No, that was something that we did. I remember doing that with you.
Oh, that sounds super.
And making out was always free too. So
these are great ideas.
Always a fun date.
Great ideas.
Yeah.
Great ideas. Those are some ones you can take with you.
You're welcome. Learning so many things.
So anyway, we did have to manage the fact that didn't have a lot of money, free spending money, even in college. And I wasn't actually as frugal in college anyway, but that's because I didn't have enough money to be spendthrifty either. So there was a time when Jen and I went out, we were at the mall. Woo!
Yes.
Went to the food court.
Yeah, we did.
And we are getting, so many options. I went somewhere and ordered something. And
I went to Sbarro, got a nice fat slice of pizza.
Well, the Sbarro line was longer, so that's probably why I didn't also get Sbarro. I went to a short line, not waste my time. Anyway, so I came over to Jen and she's in line and I said, hey, gonna hang out with her because we're together. And she says to me,
oh my goodness.
I'm not sharing this with you.
Listen, I don't know why I have food insecurity. I'm an only child. There should be no reason that I have issues with this. But apparently, maybe because also I am an only child, I feel like what's on my plate is mine. I don't do the I just reach over to somebody else's plate and take a bite. That is just not something that I do, nor do I want you to do it to me. So I guess that was what it was. But yes, I was a little aggressive with Steve. I do remember this, and I was aggressive with you, Steve, because I just knew, oh my gosh, he's being cheap again, and he's just gonna let me order my pizza, and then he's just gonna scavenge my pizza.
Right, except I had already ordered from someplace else, and she didn't know that.
Yeah, it was really awkward when I found that out. I was like, oh, sorry.
Yep. So that was fun. We still ended up getting married. Ugh.
Anyway, we tell that story because I just, assumed that, oh, well, Steve is just so cheap and blah, blah, blah. And Steve isn't cheap, but I think that he came across to me as being cheap in college. Well, maybe you were cheap in college, kind of.
I don't know. Call it what you will. But, of course, we did get married, and we got jobs, and we've told you a little bit about that situation. And then we had to, deal with money in the real world as adults, which is different than even college. But also, if you remember from an earlier episode, I mentioned how I got myself fired, or we agreed to part ways.
Yes.
And there's only a couple problems with that. That was my job. And if I got fired, I don't have that job, and now I don't have money.
And it's not like we were making a lot of money at that job. It was hardly anything, but at that time in our lives, we didn't need much. But we needed some.
Well, and if we didn't mention this, after I got fired, Jen decided to quit.
Well, yeah, of course.
In support of me.
I'm not going to stay there. Come on. You fire my husband, I quit.
So now we're looking for jobs in the hot market of Battle Creek, Michigan.
Yeah, it was a hot market.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a job in retail, working in the shoe department at Macy's. And, this is so embarrassing. Yes, I decided that it would be a good idea to invest, because that's what it is, in having a job working for a multi-level marketing company. One of the stupider things I've done in life. Sorry if I'm coming across as being judgmental, but let me tell you why, just real quick. A lot of times, those companies take advantage of the employees. They make you buy in first, and then you have to sell what you've bought in order to get back to kind of like ground zero. Is that the right word?
Break even.
Break even. To get back to breaking even, and then you have to go beyond that to make any money. And the whole big part of it is you have to recruit people to make any serious money. And then that I just felt was kind of slimy, almost like I was tricking people, to like come into this company. It's so great, when really I knew it wasn't great. And it was like putting us into debt a little bit, because they kept pressuring me like, well, if you just buy these products, you'll be able to sell them, and then your company will be better. And it's like, you're an independent woman at this company and blah, blah, blah. And the messaging, it was all really slimy to me. And so, yes, I am a little judgmental based on my own personal experience. And if you've had your own experience working for a multi-level marketing company and you love it, more power to you. That wasn't my experience.
Right. And I managed, after some substitute teaching gigs, to get I guess you'd call it full-time.
Oh, it was full-time.
But it was, the everyday grind of the in-school suspension room monitor at a local high school.
Yes. So Steve got to sit around all day, making sure kids didn't talk, didn't fight, didn't do much of anything at all.
Sometimes we studied. Like, if they were even mildly interested in doing their work and they had a question, I would help, because I was also bored.
Yeah. But all this to say, this was our introduction to what we now call our lean year. This was a year in our lives where we did not have a lot of money, and we were getting into debt a little bit thanks to me and my poor choices in life. So we didn't have a lot of money. We did not spend as much at the grocery store. We tried not to eat out. The only times we would eat out was if Fazoli's was having a kids' night, and the kids' meal was 99 cents, and the two of us adults would saunter in and order 2 kids' meals and then eat a lot of breadsticks.
Basically like $2.14 for the two of us, and I could also drink as much soda as I wanted.
Yeah, and at that point it was just like, oh, whatever, calories.
Yep. We also hadn't turned that corner in our food lives.
Yes.
I mean, we tried, but at this
Clearly,
point,
we're going to Fazoli's eating like a slice of pizza or pasta and tons of buttery breadsticks and soda. Anyway, but you would also forage at this school that you were an in-school suspension room monitor at.
Yes. So she's referring to things in the lounge area they would have at the admin building, like teacher gatherings or meetings with lunch, and they'd have leftovers, and they'd put them in the lounge. I also ate in that lounge. But
Steve has no shame. I think if you're this far with us on the podcast, or if you know us in real life, you're probably starting to realize that. He doesn't get embarrassed easily, unlike me. He doesn't have a lot of shame. He's just like, whatever.
Look, that was for both of us. I brought those extra wraps home.
And I absolutely enjoyed them. But I would not be the person sneaking into the lounge.
I wasn't sneaking. It was the place I ate too.
No, but that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part, the carrots.
Okay. I don't know why you have to bring this up. It's not like I'm ashamed of this, so I can just tell the story straight.
Okay.
The kids would get brown bag lunches from the middle school lunchroom, and I would pick them up and bring them back to the kids. It usually included a sandwich, some chocolate milk, an apple, and a bag of carrots. Cut carrots, not baby carrots. And, the kids didn't always eat their vegetables. They usually ate the other things, almost always drank the milk. And, when you're hungry, you choose to eat what's available. And some of these kids would just throw their lunches away without touching the carrots at all. Well, there's not a lot going on in the room. I can see the garbage clear as day. It's not like we're throwing lots of sewage in there.
Sewage?
Right. I said like the grossest thing you could find in the garbage.
Yes.
So I would maybe pick out that brown bag lunch, see if their carrots were untouched. And
Wait. Were you doing this after school, or were the students still...
The students were gone.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't have a lot of shame, but I didn't feel the need to do that in front of them either.
I mean, I feel like there's some basic decorum there where it's like the person who is in charge of you is digging through the trash is maybe a little unprofessional. So
right.
I'm glad that you just waited until they were gone.
Right, because I'm a professional in-school suspension room monitor. That's why they hired me. Come on.
Ugh.
Anyway, it was a lean year. But it also offered me the opportunity to be on the computer all day. I refused to play games. I had a high standard for myself.
But you did often go on and check your fantasy football lineup or whatever it's called.
Yes, absolutely. That wasn't a game. That was life. That was real life.
Oh, my God.
Fantasy football is life.
Oh.
And you better believe I knew every third-string quarterback that would never start or play or be valuable. And I won that year. I also was searching for jobs anywhere else. And I ended up finding one in that.
Get me out of here. Any job, anywhere. I mean, his search was open to the entirety of the United States. And I don't know why at that point we weren't thinking to teach abroad. It just wasn't in our minds yet. Because if we were thinking that, we probably would have done that. But anyway, so he was just putting his resume out to like head hunting companies and everything. So anyway, that's how we ended up getting the job in Florida. But yeah, it was a lean year. I remember one day I had to walk to the bank to take care of some business. And I got there and the bank was changing ownership or something, like changing its name, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And they were having a little like party and they had these deli sandwiches that they had cut into like itty bitty pieces. And I walked in there and I remember thinking, thank you, Lord. I have lunch today that I do not have to purchase. So I did take a sliver of sandwich. I did do that. And I didn't have shame in doing that because it was 4 people to take. I did only take one teeny tiny piece and it was not very much. But Steve, had he been there, he probably would have taken a few.
Well, if they had plates, I would have filled the plate.
Yeah, because that's acceptable, right? Like you have a plate, it's a certain size, you fill it, you're good.
Yes, that you're just telling me what I'm thinking.
Okay. Yes. I'm just a little different. That's okay.
Anyway, some other things that happened in that lean year as we tried to get a hold of finances and things. Jen found whatever she could online. She found it for free, and it happened to be Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, I was to be honest with you and vulnerable, I was feeling pretty stressed out. I remember one night waking up in the middle of the night, realizing, oh my gosh, I have to transfer money from our savings account into our checking account because I have a bill that's going to be automatically taking money out of my checking account tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and we will overdraft if I don't get up and do this right now. So in the middle of the night, I got up, went into the next room where our desktop computer was, turned it on, waited the 3 or 4 minutes it took to gear up. And I made that transfer of something piddly, like $39 or something, just to have enough in the checking account so that we wouldn't overdraft when that automatic bill payment came through the next morning. I was feeling a little bit desperate. So I went online. I had heard Christians talking about Dave Ramsey. And so I went online and I found a free version of some of his financial scheduling and advice. And I did what I could do with it. And I feel that it did help a little bit. It was really simple. It was something that you could do in a notebook. And basically it was just what are your goals of how much debt you're going to pay off each month? When are you going to reach that goal? And then when you do reach that goal, what is kind of a special thing that you'll do to celebrate? I really like that part where it's ooh, maybe we can go to Chili's instead of Fazoli's or something.
Right. But the problem with that is that there was a paywall for better information, and it was being held hostage by Christians. And we just have a problem where you have information that would help people, you have resources that would help people that are otherwise readily available for free in the secular world, that you feel the need to hide behind a paywall because Christians will pony up for that.
Yeah, and I'm sad to say that we know Christians in our own life who, have struggled a little bit with their finances and have paid the money to do this Dave Ramsey program. And it just baffles us and it makes us sad. And, we're telling you guys our story today because we want to be open and everything. But also, we've had some financial experiences that have lent themselves to our learning more about our finances and just how to do things in a better way. And we are happy and willing to share any information or lessons that we have with you for free.
Yes, that's right. Because at one point, it was prior to the lean year, but I realized that doing my own tax returns would be beneficial to my own education about how that worked and save me some money. So I had been doing my taxes for a while now, and I felt confident that I could do other people's taxes. So I would just tell my friends, hey, if you ever need help with this, if you want to get out from underneath $120 to H&R Block, if you don't want to pay the TurboTax fee, just ask me. I can help you with it. I'll even show you where the free e-filing things are. And if you don't know how to fill them out, I'll help you. Just ask.
Yeah, and I just think that is something that all Christians and all humans can do. We can learn a skill, and then we can go out into the world and teach other people that skill. Now, I understand that we still have to make money in our own lives to survive and all of that, but just go ahead and think about the skill set that you have and how you can help others by sharing some of that information with them for free.
So there's a passage in the New Testament. This is Jesus actually talking. You'll find it in Luke. I think it's probably also in Matthew. It's in Luke 16. And Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, and he's talking about this shrewd manager. The shrewd manager was going to get fired by his master because he wasn't very good. So what did he do? He found some people who were in debt to his master, and he said, how much do you owe to the master? 800 bushels or something. He said, make it 400. Then talked to another guy, I owe 1,000. Make it 800. And he started slashing their debts because he knew he was getting fired, and he was trying to curry favor with people who were going to be on the outside with him. And Jesus tells a story and commends the guy. Way to go, buddy. Because in verse 9, he says, I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings.
What? That's weird.
Yeah, just buy all your friends, right?
That's a strange one. Yeah.
Just buy the votes that you need to get elected.
Stop.
But here's where I would agree and disagree with this. I have no problem with the idea that use your wealth to gain friends. I just think of it differently. Use your wealth of knowledge to gain friends. If you can help someone, like Jen was saying, with stuff that you know, yeah, you'll probably make a friend out of that person.
I like that interpretation. I like it a lot, to the idea of using a wealth of knowledge to gain friends. So ending out this episode, we're kind of ending it around 2014. It came around, a blog came into our lives, and we had a huge turning point. And we'll get to that on the next episode. And listen, the purpose of this episode is simple. We wanted to share our money story and struggles with you so that you might feel more comfortable talking about yours. Because when we were going through all of this, we weren't hearing much from the church or from our Christian circles. And if we wanted any good information from Dave Ramsey, we would have to pay for it. We felt alone, and honestly, I, anyway, was a little embarrassed.
Not embarrassed.
Yeah, well, I was. I was a little embarrassed about our money situation and just going into debt. So anyway, if you'd like to talk with us more about anything having to do with money, please leave us a comment or a voice message or send us an email. We would love to hear from you.
Right. And you can look forward to next week when we pick up 2014 and later. We've alluded to some things already, so get excited.
Get excited. Until then, we are
Red Weather Christians.
Oh, we said it at the same time. I'm Jen.
I'm Steve. Leave no doubt unturned.
Until next time.